chapter 5 is called Healing and Wholeness. Begins with an introduction. To heal is to make happy. If I have the ability to bring peace, then I have to have the ability to give peace and understanding. And if you are in a place of peace and understanding, you must be happy. If you're not in understanding, you are not happy. So to heal is to make happy. I have told you to think how many opportunities you have had to gladden yourself and how many you have refused. This is the same as telling you that you have refused to heal yourself. Okay? Why? If I won't give, then I can't receive. That's why I don't give, because I don't want to be healed. I'm afraid to be healed. There's a fear of healing. We're covering that in chapter 27. The light that belongs to you is the light of joy. Radiance is not associated with sorrow. Joy calls forth an integrated willingness to share it and promotes the mind's natural impulse to respond as one. Okay, so what is the healed mind doing? Sharing and responding. In other words, giving and receiving, giving and responding. How do I respond? As one. How do I receive and accept? As one. I give for both of us, I receive for both of us. Recognizing that in the whole idea of two is the whole idea of separation, and it heals the whole thought. Those who attempt to heal without being wholly joyous, W-H-O-L-L-Y, themselves, call forth different kinds of responses at the same time and thus deprive others of the joy of responding wholeheartedly. All right, so giving and receiving. If I'm giving confusion, if I'm giving a mixed message, if I'm giving up a split idea, if I'm giving you salt and pepper at the same time, you don't know how to respond. You can't respond. You can only give or receive what you're being given. If this is all you're being given, you're getting light and darkness, you have to respond wholly, which means I'm also in a split mind, so you're going to get a response out of my room of light, the Holy Spirit, and you're going to get something from my dark room. Because why? Because you're giving me that. And I don't know how else to deal with it. So this is why we have these ups and downs and mixed messages and, oh, I thought you meant that, or what? I didn't say that. Why are you getting upset with me? I was trying to be nice. I was trying to give you something. And they're running out the door, slamming the door, giving you the finger. What happened? You're giving mixture. A healed mind can't have that response because it's not giving a mixed message and it's not calling forth from the ego in the other mind because it doesn't see the ego in the other mind. It's looking past the ego, recognizing it does not exist, and all that exists, the healed healer only sees truth, only sees reality, doesn't see sin, doesn't even see error. If I'm looking at error, I'm sending you a message, you're in error. I'm calling forth from a response from your error, which is in your dark room. This is important too. We'll be covering this, but it says the mind's natural impulse is to respond as one. So it thinks from that response, it thinks it's mixed everything into something it can call whole, even though it's a split idea, and it's shooting it back at you, and it thinks it's a whole thought. The natural response is wholeness. We'll be covering this in the weeks to come, how this split works. But we think we're making sense. We don't think we're hypocritical. Why? Because our natural response is to make the thing whole. So even though it's coming out as split, it's coming out murdering you supposedly over here, but I'm loving you over here, but I see it as one. I see it as only loving. I only see it as the face of innocence. I'm right. You're wrong. This is where this comes from. Once you recognize how the mind works, we've been mapping the mind off and on specifically for the last couple of years, but we're going to get more intense in that when we finish going through the text together. To be wholehearted, you must be happy. If fear and love cannot coexist, and if it is impossible to be wholly fearful and remain alive, the only possible whole state is that of love. There is no difference between love and joy. Therefore, the only possible whole state is the wholly joyous. To heal, or to make joyous, is therefore the same as to integrate and make one. To integrate and make one. That's why we always reiterate the law of creation as it pertains here at the end of each podcast. We always unify. by increasing and integrate by extending. In other words, we give and then we make it one. That's where joy and healing comes from. That is why it makes no difference to what part or by what part of the sonship the healing is offered. Every part benefits and benefits equally. This is where he says you have no need to figure out the extent of where your miracle ministry is touching until you can come to this thought that every part benefits equally. Everybody gets the whole thing. Can you believe that? You better. You need to get there. How far does your peace extend? Oh, watch this. We're over in this big crowd. Everybody's getting a little agitated, but watch. I can have an effect on these 20 people around me, and we'll be okay. We'll be happy. We'll be joy. But see the difference? Look at those. Look at them over there. They can see how miserable they are, but look at how cool. So your peace can reach 20 people. That's it? Well, if you understood true peace and wholeness, you'd recognize your impact is on the entire world. On everyone that thinks they're in another part of the mind, that thinks they're separate and apart. You are being blessed by every beneficent thought of any of your brothers anywhere. This is why he said miracles are going on all the time. They're natural. They're involuntary, even, he tells us. You should want to bless them in return out of gratitude. Why? Because that's the natural response. The mind's natural impulse to respond as one, with an increase in gratitude and oneness. I think I'm going to add that to that. In oneness. You need not know them individually or they you. The light is so strong that it radiates throughout the sonship and returns thanks to the Father for radiating his joy upon it. There's the gratitude. Only God's holy children are worthy channels of his beautiful joy because only they are beautiful enough to hold it by sharing it. How do you hold it? By sharing it. Well, wait a minute. If I share it, how can I hold it? Because you have taught yourself that you can't extend and still have union, which is the natural understanding of the mind that is the creative agent, the activating agent of spirit. It knows that it must extend. Love must extend, but it can't leave the source. The thought, the idea never leaves the source, but it must be extended. So it's brought back into the oneness, into the union. To have, give. Give what? Give all to who? To all. Same thing. It is impossible for a child of God to love his neighbor except as himself. That is why the healer's prayer is, let me know this brother as I know myself. If you want to know your true self, you have to know your brother because you are one. And the ability you have to not know yourself and believe you're not what you are is what you did to your brother. You crucified him and said, no, I'm different than that. I'm innocent, he's guilty. Or I'm more innocent and he's more guilty. I'm less guilty, he's more guilty. There's always the other. There's always the covering. Always the face of innocence. I don't care who it is, what mind it is, what you think they've done or they thought they've done. They always think there's somebody worse. Hitler's blaming, hey, I'm not like Stalin. At least I'm not like Stalin. Always the face of innocence. That's how it works.